Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin, and today I have some really fun brown seal banknotes to show to you, and we're going to talk about them because there's a few different layers here. I'm just using the term brown seal because all the notes I'm going to show you have brown seals to them, but there's going to be different issues. So this is known as a national banknote, national currency, and anytime you get a national banknote, it'll have a number on the side, and that number is going to refer to the bank that was actually chartered with the federal government. So the federal government printed the banknotes, they put the charter number on there, but the currency was actually circulated locally, so just in certain areas. This 13044, the Bank of America National Trust and Savings Association of San Francisco, California, is one of the largest banks, one of the most common banks. So you can buy $100 notes, I would guess for a couple $100 or less, maybe, in this condition. So one of the things to look at, well, before we go there, this bank actually turned into the B of A. So B of A, the business that you think of, actually was born out of this 13044 bank in California. Now these notes come in both a type 1 and a type 2. So when you talk about type 1 and type 2, the only difference is the charter number on the type 2 is on there twice, right? So you've got, if it's a type 1 if it's on there once, it's a type 2 if it's on there twice. So when you see that number up there in the little print, that's a type 2, the number's there twice. All right, we got that out of the way. One of the things that I want to show you is what's interesting about currency is if you have had it, if it has been together for a long time, it takes on the form of its brothers. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I have a little stack of 20s here, and they are not quite consecutive, right? They're just, for whatever reason. But even though they're not consecutive, they have been together forever. This is called paper wave. And you can see how the paper all has the exact same wave in it. And that's just from being together forever. These were just kept together and they kind of formed into one shape. Now these coins, gosh, I do too many coin videos, not enough paper money videos. These banknotes, none of them would grade uncirculated. They have just this light fold here. So all of them would be considered circulated with that fold. You know, these are notes that I would call an AU note. AU. And actually I've got two different types because I've got both the type 1 and then I've got the type 2 here where it's got it on there twice. So those are fun. But what really gets to fun is the Hawaii Five-0. So sometimes people ask me about keeping things, like what do I collect, what do I keep? And one of the hard things about being a dealer, as someone who loves collecting, is not keeping things, because you have to learn to not keep things. And that's a very hard thing to do. Ask any collector and they will tell you it's a hard thing to do. But what I will say is national banknotes have always intrigued me. There's over 14,000 different banks you can collect, and that's just the banks, not to mention denominations and then types. So there's just thousands and thousands of types you could collect. So if I had, you know, Bill Gates money, I think that's what I'd be doing. But having said that, anytime as a collectible you can show me something is really unique or scarce, I'm in, right? It can be something I don't even collect, but if you can explain to me why it's super cool, I'll believe you, I'm in. So what's really fun about this Hawaii note is in the National Banknote book on national banknotes, that was redundant, the Hawaii section is only one page. There are only 5 towns that issued currency. All right. So what's cool is the main one, the 5550, Honolulu, they're actually not as rare as I thought. I mean, they have a decent amount. These catalog prices are probably a little old, but they don't trade near that price. But what's interesting is, you've got some of the smaller banks where there's only 5 known, 1 known, and then Paella only is unreported. Look at that. I mean, find me that banknote, guys. I think that's awesome. So I'd be really tempted just to keep these Hawaiian notes because I don't see them much. They're not crazy expensive. I have both the Type 1 and a Type 2. The Type 2 is actually more scarce, but a 50 you don't see as often as the 10s. But the Type 2 10 I think is probably even more scarce than this Type 1 50. But both these notes are probably a couple $100 type notes just because you don't see them. Now, some people confuse these with just the Hawaii emergency issue. When I say Hawaii, this is probably what they're thinking. Well, the Hawaii emergency issues actually had Hawaii printed on the back of the notes, and they only made these up to $20 bills. They didn't make $50 bills on the Hawaii notes. So these were actually made to circulate in Hawaii during World War II. They're Federal Reserve notes, even though they have the brown seal on them. It's under the same issue as the Federal Reserve, whereas these were issued under the National Currency Act. So they're actually issued under different laws, basically. But even though these were issued in the 20s and 30s, and this note was issued 1934A, but it was issued in the 40s, these notes all were still circulating at the same time, because how often do you see a note that's 10 years old, 20 years old in circulation? Well, back then you probably saw it even more frequently. So anyways, I'm tempted to keep this, the Hawaii notes, because I just think they're cool. But anyway, here are some fun banknotes for you guys to look at. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Ben, the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the button in the corner and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.